I'm Christy MacDonald. As you can hear, it's kind of a boisterous crowd here in the parlor of the Grand Hotel. And it's great you've been able to talk to a lot of different people, like Senator Debbie Stabenow, who stopped by. It's good to see you.
And the sun is out. They said it was going to rain.
You know what? This is the nicest Mackinac Policy Conference Wednesday I can remember in the last couple of years.
I know, knock on wood.
Yeah, so it's great to see you. A lot of things to talk about.
Yes.
First off, I know that we don't know yet. 11 o'clock, Robert Mueller is going to be coming out and having and making a statement, not taking any questions, but I'm sure your phone has been blowing up a little bit. Is there anything that you can share with us or tell us about what you're expecting to hear?
Well, I don't know specifically, but I do know this, that no president is above the law. And he certainly laid out not only that the Russians interfered in our elections and are still doing that, by the way, which we all need to be concerned about on a bipartisan basis, irrespective of the current president. They are trying to disrupt us, and it's incredibly important. And we also know that that this president did things to interfere in an investigation and to basically try to cover up and do things that were wrong in terms of trying to interfere with what Bob Mueller was doing. So no president's above the law, and that means that we're going to have to continue to address that. I hope we also, while we are addressing that, which is very serious in terms of our democracy, we don't have a king or queen. You have 3 branches of government. That's important. But also we need to be focused on the fact that Russia, that has a very small military next to ours, very small, has chosen to put all their money into hackers and disruption. And they disrupted Europe with Brexit. They've been involved with us. They're involved with every democracy, trying to find ways to disrupt, turn us on each other,
polarize.
And so that's serious, and that's something we should be focused on a bipartisan basis.
Well, let me ask you this. Justin Amash has come out and said that there should be impeachment proceedings started from the Michigan delegation. What is your thought on that?
I think I give him a lot of credit for specifically reading and understanding what is in this report, and the fact that there are very specific ways in which this president interfered with justice, tried to interfere, and I think the House has to take that seriously, and what they're doing in terms of investigative hearings and bringing this before the American people is very, very important. Again, no president's above the law.
And you have to work with this president, and you had a meeting earlier in May about infrastructure. What was that conversation like? And, as we talk about infrastructure here in Michigan and trying to get our state funding in order and see what we're going to do with the roads and the bridges, what was your conversation like with the president, and what kind of federal help can we expect?
Well, we need a big infrastructure investment to rebuild America, and as well as do it in Michigan. And I commend the governor for what she's doing to focus us on rebuilding roads and bridges and water and sewer systems, high-speed internet, what we need to do with electric charging stations in terms of clean energy vehicles, which are very important to us as well. All this is very important. I actually was in can't really say 2 meetings with the president. It was 1 meeting, and the second meeting was 3 minutes. But the first meeting was about what we all felt needed to be done, and I certainly advocated for Michigan, not only high-speed internet and all the other things I talked about, but our ports, very important, our commercial recreational ports, SULOCs, a wide variety of things. It was a positive meeting. We agreed to come back in 3 weeks. The president asked that we have a list of what we believed should be the priorities for legislation. He was to come back with specifics on what he would support to fund it. We came in with a 35-page report on our end to lay it out. He came in for 3 minutes, said he couldn't work with us, and walked out.
Until things had been settled.
Right. So I am the eternal optimist, and feel it's very important that we continue to work together, and whether it's with the president or just starting in the legislature and trying to find common ground, we need to do it.
So, and I think people don't think there's a lot of common ground in Washington, but I know that in speaking with many of the Michigan delegation, you're trying to beat the drum that, there is some civility and we are working together on common causes, especially for Michigan. And you actually have a press conference in about 40 minutes from now with the rest of the delegation talking about the Great Lakes. I know you can't get too many specifics, but give us an overview of what you're working on.
Well, this is an important area. We have to be the stewards of the Great Lakes. And, 95% of the country's fresh water surrounds us. And if from an economic, quality of life, drinking water, all of it. So we have been laser focused, and over the years since I've become senior senator, we have been doing regular trips with the delegation on a bipartisan basis to areas that are important in Michigan. 2 years ago, we left the conference, went to the Sioux Locks. We need a new lock. It was built in World War II for many, many reasons. We've now been able to focus, get the funding, get the Army Corps of Engineers to sign off on it, and we're moving forward. So we now are focused on Asian carp, have specific plans.
I was just going to say that
Yes.
things don't move very fast in the Army Corps of Engineer department there, but finally there is some plan.
Yes.
Very expensive plan, though. Is that going to be
it's
hard
not
to
as
push?
expensive as destroying the Great Lakes. And so basically, you're right, it will cost some dollars to do this, but the chiefs have come up with their final report. You always have to get the Army Corps of Engineers to put numbers and a final report. We finally have done that. I actually had to put in legislation a few years ago to require the report, and then more legislation to require them to get it done. Mm-hmm. And so it's finally done. And basically, we found a spot 40 miles south of Chicago where all the rivers connect, Brandon Road, Lock and Dam. There's a number of technologies you can put there that would stop the fish from moving forward, and we got to do it. So the delegation is laser focused on that, just like the Sioux Locks.
So
and the Great Lakes.
Total separation of the Chicago River and Great Lake Michigan is off the table. I know we talked about it about 8 years ago.
We did talk about it. We looked at it. We want to talk about expensive.
Right.
I mean, it's billions and billions of dollars.
But you think that this is going to be the best solution?
Yes,
okay,
I do.
With some of the barriers and some of the shocking that's and looking.
Electric barriers. The other thing is these fish respond to loud noises. We've seen the videos of them jumping out of the water. There's actually a boom technology you can put under the water that actually pushes them back. So the experts have looked at all of this to determine the best way, not to close the rivers. You can't close that from a commerce standpoint. But how do we deal with technology to be able to address this? And we now finally have the roadmap.
Okay. Let me ask you about Line 5, because every year when I come up here to Mackinac and you get on the ferry to come over, there is always a group of people who are protesting with signs and making sure, or saying we need to shut down Line 5. Do you believe that the tunneling solution is the best option for Line 5?
I haven't seen the specifics on this. I mean, the most important thing is that we cannot allow a leak. We cannot allow boats going by and anchors going down. And I'm glad to see that there's efforts going on this. But I mean, this is a very, very serious thing. And whatever is going to be done needs to be done as quickly as possible.
Let me ask you just a little bit, heading back into Washington and looking at women in leadership. And a lot of women that we are seeing now in the House and the Senate. How has the dynamic changed, or how would you describe seeing more women in the halls of Congress?
I think it's wonderful. And we now have 1 out of 4 women in the United States Senate. Or 1 out of 4 members are women. 1 out of 4. When I came in, there were 13 of us, and there's now 25. And so it makes a difference. The women of the Senate meet on a bipartisan basis for dinner every few weeks. We're the only ones that do that. And you'll find that when it comes time to getting past the politics and being practical, it's the women of the Senate that are doing that.
I want to ask you a little bit about news and the exchange of information and what we saw about manipulation of video of Nancy Pelosi. There's manipulation of her video, slowing down a speech. People thought that it was a legitimate piece of video. What is your concern when it comes to disseminating information to the American people, and whether we're getting it from Facebook, whether we're getting it from Detroit Public Television, about your concern that information now technology-wise is legit?
This is very, very serious. And, and there are those who want us not to trust what we see or not to trust facts. I mean, it used to be, we would say, everybody's entitled to their opinions, but not everybody's entitled to their own facts. Well, now people seem to be entitled to their own facts, alternative facts. We have to be willing to say there's an objective arbiter. The press have to be that in terms of information, allowing both sides, but there are things that based on science that are real. There are things based on facts based on information that's clearly documented, that are real, and we have to have some confidence in that. So I'm very worried about that right now. And I also think the major forums like Twitter, like Facebook, have a responsibility. It's not some kids in college anymore, working on something. This is a major platform for how we communicate. And I don't think that, I think they should be responsible for taking things down when it's clear it was manipulation.
When you walk through here the parlor, and it's always interesting.
Right.
When I sit here at the desk and I'm able to see people walk through and to see the different conversations that people are having with other people, what are some of the most common things people are asking you now?
Well, it's interesting. Everybody starts with, how are you doing?
Oh, yeah.
How are you surviving? How can you stand the chaos? And then they go into something specific they're working on. So, there's a lot of interest in, right now we need qualified workers for the jobs being created. We're seeing jobs being created, a lot of concern about skill training, getting people into skilled trades, doing more with community college, doing all the things we've talked about, and they're happening, but they need to happen much faster, given the number of people retiring, the jobs that are being available, the new jobs that are being created. So I hear a lot about workforce development, how we can work together in creating new jobs in a number of areas. A lot of concern also about healthcare. People are very concerned about the instability that's been created, the fact that we really could see a situation where people with pre-existing conditions lose their healthcare. Healthcare costs have started to go up because of the sabotage of this administration to undermine the current healthcare system. They want to prove it's bad, so they're doing everything they can to make the costs go up. I also get a lot of conversations about the work I'm doing around mental health and addiction. 1 out of 5 people will have a mental illness in their lifetime, and the number one cause of death of someone under age 50 is a drug overdose. It affects every person here, every person that I know, including my own family, and so there's a lot of interest in this, and because I'm doing a lot of work on this to increase services, people will specifically come up and talk to me about that.
Well, you have a lot of work in front of you, and we appreciate you taking the time. We'll catch up with you after your 11 o'clock press conference and maybe talk a little bit about the Mueller report. Thanks so much, Senator Debbie Stabenow, for joining us.